they're trying to dry that honey. That's what they're trying to do. One nice thing about the cement, you could, like I said, you could pick up, you can see they got the drones and the sick bees. When you got grass, you can't see all that. And if you think you've been sprayed by pesticides, what's going to happen is you're going to have a massive amount of dead bees here and massive amount of dead bees inside there. So freeze the ones inside, and then you can call the state and we can decide if it was a pesticide kill or something else. Now sometimes you'll see bees being brought out and they're flipping around or they're spinning around, and that's also a sign of nosema. You actually see a lot of that in the spring. If you don't have a lot of bees dying, then it's probably not a pesticide kill. Forgot my powdered sugar. We'll do the alcohol wash then. But basically the powdered sugar one, just to give you, every beekeeper can do this themselves. It's just a couple jars, okay? Put about a teaspoon of powdered sugar in there and fill it up to what you think is about 300 bees, and then you just roll it around a little bit and roll it around, and then take the other empty one, put it on there, and just kind of shake these bees around. Don't do like that because they'll puke all the nectar in their stomach, and then everything will get all caked up. So just kind of lightly do it like that, and then turn it over so the screen's on the bottom. You turn it over and just lightly shake it through like that, and shake it. And then you'll see if you have mites, you put a little bit of powdered sugar and you'll see the mites in there. There'll be brown things, they'll be jumping around. Some people tell you to put it out like that and then take water and spray on it like that. That gets real sticky. This will just give you, it's just a snapshot of what you got. So if you get about 3 or more, then you need to start treating. They say if you have 5 or more, that hive is in collapse. But you can bring it back if you get the right miticide on it.
5 mites per bee?
For 300 bees in here is what they're saying.
See 5 mites in there?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've seen it.
15 for 300. Right?
I've seen like 15, 20 bees in here, or mites in here. You know, people have a real bad. But you can, if you look at your brood too, you'll look at it and you'll start to see that you don't have nice white larvae, and that sometimes they'll look kind of slimy in there, or the brood will be a lot of checker pattern and stuff like that. A lot of times that's from the mites, because if you have real hygienic ones, they're pulling out the dead larvae and that kind of stuff. Like I noticed here, there's some larvae out in front here, so I guess I stepped on it, but they were pulling that out because that was probably dead. There's probably mites in it, and when they pull that out, if there's a mite on there, as they pull that out, that might jump out and jump on that bee and bite it, and that's how stuff is spread. Because it's in the evening, I'm going to use my gloves. A lot of times I don't use them.
I would say, yeah.
So what bees will do, they'll especially start to get evening like this, when they quit flying, then they'll start crawling on you. And like when you're moving bees, you move them at night or early in the morning, and then they quit flying, they start crawling on you, and then they start stinging you more. So.
Would you ever end up seeing small hive beetle from this too?
Sometimes, yep. Sometimes you pop the lid and you can see them. And that's what happens when you pop the lid. The small hive beetle, that's their defense. They get scared, and then they start laying their eggs. Small hive beetles live in cracks. They like to lay their, or should I say they lay their eggs in the cracks. And the thing about the small hive beetle, the bees will trap them in a corner or something, and after they're there so long, they trick the bees into feeding them. So here's something good. You notice they got this slot here in your inner cover, and this is good for like the winter time especially. So you keep that on there like that, and that's going to let your moisture out. You can buy nice expensive stuff to put up there, but we've kept bees for years, and that's all in the winter time. That slot right there, and that'll let it out. If you wrap your bees, make sure there's a place for that bees to ventilate that out. I looked at somebody's bees this year. In the winter time, I went to feed them, and they had them all wrapped up nice, but that caked up so much full of ice, all that moisture couldn't get out. And you get moisture in there from if people feed too late in the year, late into October and stuff. So you got what the bees haven't been able to cure all that sugar water, and also bees make their own moisture in the wintertime. Insects have this thing they call metabolic moisture. So when they're in that cluster and it gets colder, then they get tighter and tighter, and then they can make all the humidity that they need to keep the brood alive. And then the warm day comes and they're going to move on to some more honey, and they break it open, and that moisture goes to the top. And then that's where, if you don't have something to let it out, then it collects on top. And
Rains down on them.
yep. What do you got? Some honey here. That's one thing when you
Hernia time.
when you put them up this high.
Yeah.
It's
Whoever built this hive stand,
It's too high.
it's too high.
That's what I say. You can't make them like that.
no, you can't. I mean, because
It's
once they really start.
Yes,
Four and a half,
exactly.
it's too
I
much.
would cut the legs
yeah.
more than half.
I would just put them on. Yeah, just put them on these 2x6s.
Yeah, that would be fine too.
Yeah.
I might have to bring up a steps ladder to
Keep telling people that.
it.
Aesthetically
Gotta
pleasing
get
when
them
it's
up
high.
there.
And when you take queen excluder off, don't just
Then you gotta
slap
put
it
your
on there or
hands on
whatever.
for the fire
Look on the
ants.
bottom. I've seen queens walking on the bottom of it, and then come a couple weeks later and you got brood up here and nothing down here, or you just throw it on the ground and there went your queen. A lot of times beekeepers kill their own queens, not trying to, but just by looking at their bees.
So hopefully I have enough room.
Uh-oh, you better get out of there. Yeah, you're getting, they're stinging. Yeah. Yep, I'm getting,
Bunch of babies.
Ah, it's no fun getting stung. I mean, I get stung
I'm
every
just
day.
putting my foot in the door so I can get out of here.
You're just gonna let all the bees in then?
Here you go, Dennis.
Come back to this.
So here you get here. You know, that's good that you got a lot of honey there. Make sure your queen's not on there. And you want to start with the outside frame, so that if you pull them from the middle, if you got the queen in there, you can, what they call a roll of queen, meaning when you're pulling it out, you can squish her.
Put it back out.
Now, to make sure that you have a queen, you don't have to actually find her. When you take your frame, you just kind of look and put it in the light, and you can see the eggs down in there. And when you see that, you know that you got a queen. When you see this larvae here, the sealed brood, you had a queen but 20 days ago. So you want to look when you're in it, you want to make sure you got it right now. And the time of the day, they're kind of ornery here. So here's some larvae that's probably about 5 days old, and that's where we're going to take the sample from. Because the mites are usually running around there because you're getting ready to cap it here another couple days. And I'm just looking to make sure the queen isn't there. And when you look down in here and you look at your larva, you want to look where the eggs are supposed to be in that, and see that it looks like somebody took some Elmer's glue and stuck it down in there where the eggs are. That's the royal jelly. When you see a lot of that, you know you got a good pollen flow coming in. Because the bees, they need the pollen to produce royal jelly.
What does 300 bees look like?
I'm just going to put this lid on here to keep them calm down here a little bit. We had a bunch fly out, but pretty close.
Is it about a half cup for 300?
Something like that. These things got a line in there. It's kind of just you're just kind of checking. Now, just if it comes up 0 doesn't mean that you don't have mites.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can see some in there. Probably should have had a few more bees in there, but kind of, I don't want everybody to get stung here, so.
Now, how do you know you're counting mites versus body parts?
Because the mites, I'm going to pass this around. I can see one in here for sure. You can see it's in this one corner over here.
Don't they float to the bottom?
Yeah, they're on the bottom, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can you see it?
Yep.
So that's not bad, and there's one in there. We should have had a few more bees. So that's with the alcohol wash. Now the powdered sugar, you know, you'd see it jumping around in there in the bottom of the...
It's a car wash. Look, so that's got a
Windshield wiper fluid.
Windshield
But it's gotta be
okay.
winter.
Okay.
It's gotta be the real heavy duty stuff.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah.
The room is good, and
Okay.
you don't have many mice in there. A cheap, easy way to ventilate the bees in the summertime is take a stick, as long as you got the inner cover on there, and go like that. It just gives them more, they can get that humidity out of there and dry the honey quicker. One thing too, when you open your hive, first thing you want to do is just smell it. If it smells like wax and wood and smells good, something good's going on. The other thing is, if you see a lot of this white wax, that's good too. I think she wants to get in before they...
Queen.
Why is the white wax good?
That means that they're drawn and everything's healthy in there. If things aren't looking good like that, you know, like summertime like this, there's usually something going on in the hive. Usually. You know, so this means we got a good nectar flow going on here, and so they're filling this up. Again, your brood's all in the middle. They got this full of honey on the ends, and that's good. And make sure you swap out your frames every 3 or 4 years. Keep new frames in there. Let them draw it out. Just you don't have to replace everything. Just put a few new frames in all the time.
And why is that?
For brood diseases, and also they seem to like, I don't know, I've seen them build up quicker on new stuff than old disease stuff, or just old stuff. We got a lot hatching out here.
Now, when you do your inspections, what do you do to your hive tool between inspections?
Put it in, this one's brand new, it's been painted. But and beekeepers should do this themselves. You put it in the smoker, and the heat from the smoker sanitizes it. Plus I wipe it off out there with some
So that will
antibiotic
take care
stuff.
of American fall brood and European fall brood?
It should. It's supposed to. That's what they tell us to do, is put it in the smoker, all that heat. This is all honey up here now. So. And if I get into something, then I make sure that everything's really cleaned up.
So you might do all the right things for treating for mites, and 2 miles away you got someone not treating for mites, you're going to end up with their mites, right?
Correct, probably, yep. That's why we're telling everybody, treat for, your mites.
So now when you talk about treating, in the 4 times a year, are you treating regardless of your mite count, or you're only treating if you hit certain thresholds at certain times of the year?
I think you should just treat anyways because they're there and it'll keep them healthy.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it where people, you do the mite counts like we're doing and everything's okay, and then they don't, and then all of a sudden they can explode on you. So you have a lot of sealed brood here, and today we take a mite count, it might be 1 or 2, and that brood starts hatching.
It's totally different.
It's totally different, yeah.
Now,
So the formic stuff will kill the mites underneath the brood cap.
okay. So let's say let's say you check and you get a count of like over 5 mites per 100.
Yep, you better get some treatment on them.
So I mean, would you go straight to Apribar with that?
No, so if you get a big mite count now, and you got honey supers on, then you can use the 2-strip method of the formic acid.
Okay.
Yep.
So is any treatment better than any other treatment?
Each treatment is best when it's used at the correct time of the year. Some of it's temperature sensitive, some of it's
When you use the, okay, go ahead.
no, that's fine.
When you use the oxalic acid through the vaporizer,
Yep.
does it come with like a measuring thing that you put in the?
It usually comes with a little bitty spoon in there.
And so when you close the hive down with repellent stuff, do you close the top?
So yeah, you don't want any holes in it when you put the vaporizer.
What about your inner cover?
You'll have the lid down.
Right, but if you have a slot in your inner cover, it doesn't matter really.
Yeah, not too much. You can if you want to. You know, I guess if you only got a couple hives, you got the time. Yeah, you can close it up.
Yeah, so when you're using the vape, okay, should you be treating on a like 5 to 7 day cycle 3 times? So you're killing the mites because it's not going in,
Right.
right?
Right. Yep. So it can be 3 treatments. Like I said, some people only want to do 1. You know, it just kind of depends the time of the year. Like, you know, what if you had a big high mite count, then you might want to do it. If the mite count wasn't too bad, you know, you might get by with 1. You know, the less of the stuff you use is probably better, but you do have to use it.
And then on scientific beekeeping, there's this oxalic towel method.
Yep.
That isn't okayed yet.
It isn't okayed yet, but I've seen people use it, and it seems to be working okay, but when it gets cold, it doesn't work as well.
Cold, like less than 50?
No, cold, like, yeah, about 50 degrees and below, I guess, yeah.
And
So
that
it-
is not yet okayed by the...
It has not been cleared to use that way yet, no, but now here's an example.
grapefruit pattern.
See this here, this frame, you see this? Now I noticed this when I came earlier. Whoever, you got your screen bottom board on, I don't know if it's upside down or what, but you see that on the bottom, how they built that out? That's all drone comb.
Okay.
So what you've done there is they drew that out for drones, laid in there, but now when they hatch, you're gonna have a lot of mites.
Okay.
So
Would you recommend flipping that?
I think, I was looking at that, you might want to try that. You don't want any more than that 3/8 space, whatever,
Okay.
because otherwise they start building a lot of this. I'm just going to leave this here tonight, but
That's fine, I'll take care of it.
yeah, that's what happens is you raise a lot of mites. Let me get my,
So when you're doing your mite counts, you want capped brood or you want uncapped brood?
you want where the uncapped stuff. I'm doing it here because you got a lot of that drone brood being born here.
Okay, okay.
Plus I'm trying to hurry this up to get, well, there's your queen right there. She's marked. So we're going to put this one back in here.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I got back inspections.
And the reason you took that other one out is not to roll the queen.
Well, the queen was on there. I didn't want to.
Right.
They're not really participating right here tonight here. During the daylight, they usually just fall right in here. But they just want to, I don't know, they're flying too much. It works good too if you take a dish pan and you just shake them in a dish pan. And then you can scoop out a quarter cup of bees.
Quarter cup or a half cup?
I usually use a quarter cup because that's what we do on our USDA test. So
And how many bees is a quarter cup?
I probably should have had more bees in here, but I want to get like a cheat here, I guess. Here. You guys can shake that around. See if there's mites on the bottom.
So you want to pull them all from one location?
Well, I like to take, when they participate, you get it all from the different, that's why I do it like that. A couple different frames is going to give you a little bit better
Idea of the whole thing, right?
idea of what's going on in
Sure.
here.
Gotta look a little carefully.
Honey bound on top, you may want to
But they're pretty round. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
They're mites, they're mites.
that's a mite.
So if you have an IPM board, one of those white.
I always tell beekeepers, would you just, somebody come up and they're selling their honey at a farmer's market and they say, well, I'm a chef, so I need honey, would you just give it to them, right?
Yeah.
So the veterinarian comes out, that's his living.